Thank you, Rob, and welcome everyone. When I was reviewing the agenda for today, I was aware of just how much we have to learn from each other and how generously people have offered their time and their ideas about how we can live together better with respect and care and with creativity and courage and with attention to all the areas of our common home. I found out Pierce County was officially called that by a decision of the Oregon Territorial Legislature in 1852. And that governmental body did what such bodies often do, is mark off spaces and separate jurisdictions and lands. But it's important to acknowledge that we meet today on the traditional homelands of the Puyallup tribe of Indians, who have stewarded these lands since the beginning of time and continue to do so, and had no part of that territorial legislature's decision to name us. As latecomers to this space, we face continuing challenges in reaching agreements about whose land this is, about who belongs on these spaces, about the meaning of public and private property, about what kinds of homes should be allowed here, and how many, and about what we must do to ensure that everyone has a safe and secure place to live, whether in our major cities or in the more rural areas of our county. This month, particularly this day and this weekend, I'm reminded of the power of reflection to move us forward. This is the season when three major faith traditions call their members to deep reflection and action with the events of Ramadan, Passover, and Easter. All of these traditions, as well as others, emphasize the importance of disrupting business as usual to pay attention to the important and essential things of life. And so, to center us today on our task, I have a very short selection from poet Mary Oliver's poem titled Sometimes. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. So I'm going to read it one more time and then just ask you to think about how you would do that today. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. So welcome everybody. And at this time, I know we have a number of presentations today, so we'll have some probably new folks here that may not have joined us before. And for anyone else who's joining us for the first time or has come back from being away for some time, we use this time to introduce ourselves a little bit, have you at least introduce yourselves to us. And before that, just to let you know how we operate, we are here on Zoom and we're pretty much experts at this by now. We do ask people to use the hand raise function when you're trying to get attention from Rob. And if you don't get attention that way, wave your hands mildly about and someone will recognize that you need to be listened to briefly at least. Also, if you're doing something, keep yourself on mute when you're not speaking so we don't have background noise. And also, if you're doing other things, taking a call or something, stop the video too so we don't have what's often ethnically determined, but not necessarily, lots of hand waving as we talk on the phone. And then also we use the chat function in this meeting as a way to communicate with each other during the meeting. It's not disrespectful, it's in fact encouraged. Find out more about each other, list announcements, let us know if you have questions about something that's come up. And if you're new and something doesn't make sense, ask about it and we can take care of it in that forum. And also then for our community norms, these are basic norms of respectful dialogue. We're an open table. We invite people with different perspectives to come as long as we're willing to respect each other as we speak. Don't take up too much space, but be sure to take up some. So with that, I'd like to invite anyone who's here that's new to just either raise your hand or unmute yourself and Rob can recognize you.
And the first hand I see up is Dara.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Dara Bardelas. I am the administrative coordinator for the matching and referrals team at Insight Passages, Pierce County. I've been in the coalition, actually, I'm just really quiet because I'm a little bit shy, but I've been joining the coalition since January, and so far it is nice to see and know people that, you know, I work over the phone and via Zoom, so it's nice to connect with people. Also, personally, I am interested in learning more about the intersection of homelessness and domestic violence. I am a domestic violence advocate before DVCE, and I've been really interested and to expand my knowledge and to know people that also are interested in that. I'm also here. Sorry, that's my dog, Paula. I'm also here to. Sorry, excuse me. I'm also here to. And this is might not relate to the Homeless Coalition. I also an advocate. There's a petition to drop charges for Leia. It's a 22-year-old mother that is incarcerated for defending herself against her boyfriend that abused her. So I just wanna share it to everyone. She's gonna be on trial in Pierce County Court this Tuesday, and I hope you can support survivors of domestic violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Dara. It's very good to have you here, and put that information in the chat so people can refer back to it. That would be great.
Awesome.
See, Adam, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Adam Martin. I run an organization called Artists for Life in the Sound, and we're mostly known for the Stars for Peace project. What we do is we use music and art to highlight solutions to social need. We've been public in Tacoma since 2012, so for 10 years. We brought the Luminary procession. We started that, and we have converted that to the Stars for Peace project that we are currently focusing on youth homelessness. But we have also raised resources for a variety of different groups, including we have worked with the Hope Victims Advocacy Foundation on Hilltop. They primarily help disadvantaged people.
Pardon me, Adam. I just want to check in because your 5-minute presentation is going to come after this.
Okay.
I don't know if you were thinking it was now. So yeah, we are looking forward to hearing about you. But yeah, so this is just a time to say kind of your name and organization, and then we're going to get to you, and we're looking forward to it.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, so my name is Adam. I run Artists for Life in the Sound and Stars for Peace. Thanks.
All right, I'm not seeing anyone else raising their hand to do a quick introduction this morning. Rosemary, anything you want to wrap up with?
I just say pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it.
I love it. Thank you, Rosemary. So let's shift first to our regular standing item, which is an update from those who do direct outreach in Tacoma and Pierce County to get a sense of what's changing this week on the streets. So I know we have Colin DeForest has joined us. I don't know, Colin, if you have a moment now to share information. I know we have others who have been doing direct outreach this week, but I will ask people to just raise their hand and share what they think would be useful for the larger group here this morning. Colin, did you want to get us started?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Rob. I'm kind of getting glitches, so I'm out in the field out here down in Fife. So I'm hoping, I don't know if it's my side or the other side. So just let me know if I'm glitching out, and I'll take my fat face picture off. Anyways, I just wanted to, I know that I had talked before, and there was an ask anytime we were doing larger encampment cleanups, especially in the Pierce County or kind of Tacoma area, that we would inform the group. We have some camps, basically 2 camps along the 509 as you go around the Port of Tacoma. That's WSDOT property. That's the very beginning, which is well underway, part of the Gateway program, which I'm the homeless response manager for, and the other WSDOT properties. But we've always known about the camps, you know, so we've been working with these individuals since September. Many individuals have been connected to services or moved along from this area, but we're still sitting on 2 core camps in this area. A lot of concern just from a liability standpoint because they're in the middle of an active highway. So we've had some real close calls with semis, which is super scary. So those camps next week we'll finally be removing those camps and cleaning that area and cutting down all the Scotch broom to keep those from being what they are right now, which is very appealing areas for individuals that are looking for a safe place to be, you know, even though it's not ideally very safe. So we posted the site 2 weeks back on the 6th. So we've given those individuals, we've been working with them for months. So they know us very well. We've been out there with Washington State Patrol. We've been out there with the Tacoma because it's Tacoma. It's the city of Tacoma. That's the jurisdiction. So we've been out there with the city of Tacoma homeless outreach team on multiple occasions. We'll continue to go out there with the outreach team, outreach workers. We've been out there with Comprehensive Life Resources. Calvin's been a great help with connecting individuals out there and engaging individuals. Hopefully he'll be out there today. The cleanups will start next Tuesday. It's probably just going to be a 2 cleanup. We're looking at it probably, I think it could be as little as 6 people out there, a couple of couples that we're working with. It could be as many as 15 people. It just kind of, there's a very transient nature to this site. So I want to just give you guys a heads up. We're going to be working on those areas in this next week. Anybody that wants to go out there Monday or Tuesday, or even conceivably today, let me know. I'll put my information in the chats. The individuals that are out there are great. We have great relationships with all of them. They've kind of known this has been coming and they've been working with us. We got someone into a tiny house village last week from there, which was awesome. We got another couple that has a place to go to in Bremerton. So we're just basically getting them transportation to Bremerton, which is awesome. So it's not really it's not some of the large camps that we've seen, but there is still individuals there that are in need of potential services. We're doing storage for anybody who needs storage room. We'll store their belongings, the state will, but I just wanted to give the coalition a heads up that is going on. And if there's any questions about that or anything, feel free to ask me, or else I'll also put my information in on the chat. I would say there are one of the things, and we worked with Trish, but this kind of falls into comprehensive area a little bit more than Greater Lakes. There is a need for veteran services at this site and another close site. So we have multiple veterans that are trying to get connected to services. So if anybody from the VA wants to reach out to me, that'd be awesome. That's really all I have.
Okay. Thanks, Colin. And no, you didn't glitch out. So we appreciate the update. One question is, do you have a sense of where these folks are likely to go after this site is removed?
Right. As I said, there's those. So that's 2. There's 4 individuals right now of the. I think there's going to be about 8. So those guys, we're going to get connected. We're getting connected, those services. There's another couple that's been, gosh, I worked with this couple a lot when I was at the city of Tacoma. So they've been around, they're in the stability site. The lady just wants to go back to TRM. She said they're working with they said a church on MLK. I'm not exactly sure what one of the new shelters they might be working with, but there's a chance that they might be able to get into that shelter on MLK. They said possibly through today or the weekend. I'm going to touch base with them again today. She said if that doesn't work out, she wants to go back to the Rescue Mission Women's Shelter because she just wants to get out of the cold. Yeah. The guy is a little more challenging. He's been outside for 10 plus years. So I'm trying to work with him to see if we can get him into a shelter. He's a super hoarder. which is a challenge, as we all know. So I'm working to basically help him pare down his stuff and store what I can in the hope that we can get him to take that first next step before we figure out what's next from there. So for the most of them, it's this area. We also have a few people that are from King County. So there's a weird dynamic in this area and in the Fife area. You get people that end up going up to King County oftentimes too. So there's shelter options. We've placed a few people in a Catholic Community Services shelter off of Highway 99. They took over a hotel. So there's a few people that may go that direction. It's hard to say. We do our best. You know, we try to provide them options. A lot of them are just, they're gonna move along and do their thing, but we're gonna continue working with them.
Great. Well, thanks for the update, Colin, and the heads up. There's a couple of mentions in the chat regarding VA resources, so you may want to take a look at that.
I will. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah. Anyone else with updates from the streets this week? I did want to offer something that, oh, I see Jenny, your hand's up. So why don't you go ahead and go first?
I just wanted to give a quick update on a situation that came to us at Inside Passages this week. We are now working with an individual who was staying at TRM at the women's shelter. And of course, they are only an overnight shelter. She unfortunately was assaulted. She is a victim of domestic violence. She was assaulted when she was out on the streets during the day. And I was actually contacted by the hospital social worker asking if we could support her. She ended up in the hospital not only because of the assault, but unfortunately she ended up with some pretty severe infections because of the assault. So we're now supporting her. But I just kind of wanted to raise this to the coalition because we're hearing a lot more stories about safety on the streets for individuals. And I'm sure that comes as no surprise to anyone, but this is just kind of a specific case that I wanted to share. We are supporting her now. We were able to get her placement at Nativity House because she needs kind of some respite care. The hospital discharged her at 7 o'clock at night. And so we received an emergency phone call because where was she going to go? She was not supposed to be discharged until the following day. And then she called in a panic and said, they're discharging me now. Where do I go? What do I do? We all know that that's a problem as well from hospitals. So fortunately, we were able to respond to that, pick her up, get her to where she needed to go. So safety is a real concern and a real issue. And again, that I'm sure comes as no surprise, but just raising it as kind of something that we should all be watching out for and having conversations with as we're out kind of doing outreach and having conversations with folks.
Thank you, Jenny. And that actually is that relates to what I was going to share. There is a growing number of folks that I'm aware of in the area just between, well, the Stadium District and North Slope area, where there have been some folks who've been moving their tents around. They're currently at 2nd and North 2nd and Yakima Avenue. And Richard and I both saw a post on Nextdoor last night that was a little disturbing, where a person was asking to have someone DM her about hiring contractors to go move along the people who are living in tents at 2nd and Yakima Avenue. I've been seeing posts about people trying to harass people out of the space, blare music, throw fireworks, you know, you name it. And so this is another safety concern that I think we need to be on top of. I know that Richard reached out to the city of Tacoma last night to report the post on Nextdoor, just because it looked like it was potentially the warning of a impending crime against the folks who live at that site. So just to be aware that there's that tension between housed and unhoused people it seems to be ratcheting up in some areas. So it's just something that we all need to be aware of, both while we're doing outreach and as we try to support people who are houseless with services. So, Richard, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, no, you've got it. I was just concerned with, well, a few days ago, people talking about harassing campers. And then I saw the screenshot of somebody trying to contract with somebody to, I don't know, do what, but it sounded like commit a crime of violence and theft, possibly against a homeless camper. So I think it's just something to stay vigilant and pay attention to.
Appreciate that. So any last on the streets items before we move on to our first presentation? All right, so I am not seeing any. So now, Adam, I would like to invite you to, we set aside 5 minutes every week to spotlight an effort that's underway in the community. And we know you wanted to talk about Stars for Peace, Music and Heart this morning. So Adam, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I run an organization called Artists for Life in the Sound. And we use music and art to highlight solutions to social needs specifically. A lot of people talk about the problem, but what we realized many years ago now, we began in 2010, 2010, I began the heart of the work behind the scenes. And in 2012, we were public in Tacoma. A lot of people talk about the problems because there are so many. You know, we have AM radio, we have all of these, really a lot of discussion. And the area that I saw an opening for was how do we focus on what is hopeful, really hopeful. And I've worked with, well, we mentioned Catholic Community Services and, you know, that community around Bix. He had a huge impact on my life. If anyone knows who Bix was, good conversations with him years ago. So I've been part of the community behind the scenes for so long. And the people that are doing the work, everywhere I went, there was optimism. And I said, well, how can we use what we are doing in music and what we've done with art to highlight the people that are actually doing the work that serves people directly? So we focus more on the smaller organizations and facilitating their mission by encouraging the public to support them. So it's a different model than any that I've come across, because we're not asking for money ourselves. We're asking the public to support the people that are helping directly. And what we've done is we've created a pretty good network at this point in our existence for receiving supplies that we then sort, organize, launder if necessary, and then get as directly to need as we're able to get. So what I had not known many years ago now is that a lot of the times the clothing drives that happen around town are then processed, weighed out per pound, sold, and then those are costs that are recuperated for administrative costs. Nothing against the organizations doing that, but the general public doesn't always know that. And if I want this jacket to go to someone in need and I put my jacket in someone's donation station, my expectation is that it goes to need. And so what we did as a team, it wasn't just me, it was me and several others. We created the ability to be able to bring in things, and then we would literally take them in our cars, and we still do. So the things that we have, we take them literally to Hilltop, and we just open the trunk and let people get pants or coats. And we've done this for many, many, many years now. And during the pandemic, we had to pivot because even though we were ready to do donations in April of 2020, it wasn't the right climate for it. And so what we did is we developed a way for people to support organizations online. So if you go to starsforpeace.org, right now we're focusing on youth experiencing homelessness. And people can go in person to Marlene's Deli, if you know Marlene's on South 38th, Happy Belly Restaurant downtown, and then Amy's Casual Comfort on 6th Avenue. She does organic bedding and futons. And Tacoma Frame Makers right next door, one of the best arts oriented places anywhere, and give donations for youth directly there in person. But a lot of people aren't going out anymore. And so they can also give online, and they can give online directly to the organizations that they want to support in the way they want to support the youth that they're wanting to. So they can buy meals directly. They can buy school supplies directly. And these go directly to the organizations that the general public wants to support. So that is in short what we have done. And Teresa, I did my best to go by your guidelines. The eligibility is everybody. You know, I'm not your typical organization. You know, referrals are anybody. So we also work with public radio, and we also have ways of getting the word out and creatively online and through our various networks. So what we want to do is create programming. We realize that we already have the support throughout our networks. And the reason for the discussion is to raise support. So why don't we focus on the support first? And now we are developing to the microphone, so to speak. It would be wonderful to get people's voices here, speak to the real challenge for youth. But in short, that's what that is what we are doing. Yes, Teresa, I see your hand raised.
So this is a question about how nonprofits might be in touch with you. It sounds like you're focusing entirely on youth homelessness right now, and I'm curious about the groups you're working with, but I also wonder, like, I know the Catholic Worker is doing a fundraiser on May 1st, and I don't know if that's something, and they're a good organization who have been here for a long time, and you might know that BICS initiated that. But in any case, is there a way that you can also use your network to get the word out about things like that? And if so, how would a nonprofit contact you to find out if you could do that? Did I scare him off? No, there you are. Oh, you're muted, dear.
I don't know what that was. I've never had that happen in Zoom. It just everything crashed and then everything popped back up. The answer to your question is kind of. I know that we can get that on for Radio Tacoma, and I know that I can put that on my website. And yes, our current focus is youth homelessness. We have addressed homelessness in general. We have worked with survivors of domestic abuse, survivors of trauma due to abuse, survivors of trauma due to just PTSD in general. We are focusing right now on youth, but our perspective as an organization is much more thorough, and I do really with Dara there the correlation between and across the different demographics is real. You cannot have any experience whatsoever working with people on the street or in these different areas without realizing the interconnectedness of trauma, of abuse, of all of the things that we all know. Most people here, I find myself preaching to the choir when I'm in groups like this. What we're trying to do as an organization is to bring people together across the field so that we can also reach, we have a lot of network through musicians. And what we can do is we can also get the word out about the organizations to the people that also need to be served by these organizations. A lot of people aren't aware of them. So to answer your question, Teresa, long story short, yes, if you get me that information, I'd be happy to share that with Radio Tacoma. And I'll be happy to put that on my website too. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Adam. So Adam, there's been a request for your contact information in the chat. So if you could provide that, that would be fantastic. And I am going to urge folks, if you have additional questions for Adam, to post them in the chat. We are running a little bit behind on our agenda this morning, so I want to make sure our other presenters have time, but want to also express thanks for your update and letting us know about your work, Adam.
Thank you very much for this opportunity too.
Yes, of course. All right, so the next item on our agenda is an update on the WA Cares program. And Anna and Jess are here to talk to us about that. And if you would like to take it away, do you have a presentation you would like to share, and who?
Hi, yes, I do have a presentation, but it says that it's disabled. So
I will fix that for you right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you should have the ability to share now.
Thank you so much.
Maybe. There we go.
Yeah. There it is. Can you see my screen?
We can.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start now. Hello, everyone. First, I wanted to say thank you for giving me and Jess this space to talk a little bit about WA Cares program and our current campaign. My name is Ana Ascanio. I am an organizer with the Washingtonians for a Responsible Future Coalition and SEIU 775. So our coalition is a broad-based coalition of aging and disability advocates, businesses, long-term care providers, labor, consumers' rights organizations, and families. And we are working to continue this important conversation of the long-term care needs in Washington. So as some of you might have experienced already, working families have been and have become the backbone of long-term care. At some point in our lives, each of us will be likely taking care of somebody we're close to, either a family member or someone that needs our help. And about 800,000 Washingtonians help loved ones with care every year. So that number is equivalent to $10.7 billion in unpaid care in the state, which is 5 times what Medicaid spends on long-term care each year. So that is a very big number. And paying for long-term care can bankrupt a family, which leads to an average of $7,000 on caregiver costs per year, and a loss of more than $300,000 in income just for families staying with their loved ones at home, taking care of them, and having to either take a part-time job or completely quit their career to take care of their loved ones. So WA Cares covers a list of things, but I think it's very important to mention that with WA Cares, you will be able to pay caregivers and family members to take care of you. So that will kind of like release some of the burden of having to pay all that out of pocket cost for caregiving or even losing your job. And I think also, especially for this coalition, it is important to know that our senior citizens sometimes end up losing all their savings and even their homes to take care of the cost of long-term care, leading to homelessness. And these programs could really help prevent that homelessness in our senior citizens. So some facts, just kind of like an update of WA Cares. So What Cares is a first in the nation long-term care fund for working Washingtonians that covers whatever you need, from paying a family member for time caring for you, hiring professionals to provide in-home modifications or meal delivery, and much more. So basically how it works is that if you work in Washington, you're automatically enrolled in What Cares through your payroll, and 58 cents per $100 is automatically withheld by your employer from your paycheck. So I think something that is great about this program is that when you retire or take time off work, you won't need to be paying these benefits, but coverage continues. And then this benefit will start as soon as 2026 and is up to $36,500, and we continue increasing with inflation. And some great updates that we got from this legislative session is that now over 1 million Washingtonians that are near retirees will be partially covered by this benefit, which they weren't before. And this we know was a major concern for those that will be retiring in the next few years and won't be able to pay in for the entire 10 years required to get the full benefit, but we will be paying in for the next 2, 3, 5 years. So they will be able to get partial benefit for What Cares. And another update that, while not ideal, it might be a good opportunity, is that the program has been delayed until July of 2023. So we're going to start seeing these tax being deducted from our paycheck in July of 2023. And well, we definitely wanted these to start as soon as possible to make sure as many Washingtonians as possible were covered by it. We definitely can see this delay as an opportunity to continue educating our communities about the importance of this benefit and how it works, and continue advocating for it in case of any opposition, continue pushing towards repealing this program. And then, as I mentioned, What Cares can provide relief for families who are paying out of pocket for in-home long-term care for a full year, and substantial relief for individuals who receive care in a residential setting. So you can spend this benefit in a combination of services and support, like home modifications to be able to get around your house better, have meals delivered to your door, purchase equipment, assistive devices, medication, and transportation to the doctor. And if you are being supported by an unpaid family caregiver, you can hire a home care aide to give them a break, or even get training for your family member that will allow them to feel a little bit more supported. So an example of how you can use this benefit, it could be 25 hours per week of in-home care for a year, 9 to 18 months in a residential setting, such as an adult family home and assisted living, or 5 to 6 months in a nursing home. And I think what's very important about this program is that a lot of people would rather stay home than go to a facility, and even they don't necessarily have to go to a facility. So this program would allow those to kind of like decrease the burden, the financial cost of having caregivers in their home, but they can still stay at home and get the services they need to be comfortable. And then, sorry. So I think it's important to compare What Cares with long-term care insurance, private insurance, because we know that at the end of last year, kind of like a lot of companies, what they said is like they sent an HR kind of like email just mentioning, okay, this is kind of like the tax you're going to be getting starting next year, and this is how to opt out of it, and you can just sign up to this long-term care insurance. And while long-term care insurance can be kind of like a good combo with What Cares, so you can have better increased coverage, especially if you have to stay in a facility for a long period of time. There are also a lot of downside to just having a long-term care insurance. So first of all, What Cares coverage includes preconditions like cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, which is not covered for private insurance. Then you also have the choice to just stay at home and pay for those services that you actually need. And I think, as I mentioned before, I think it's very important that you don't lose coverage if you stop paying. If you have 6 months without a job, for example, or if you retire, you don't need to continue paying. While with private insurance, you would need to continue paying. And if you miss a payment, then your policy is discontinued. I think this one is something that for me was a shock when I found out about it, is that women actually pay over 50% more than men with long-term care insurance, while WACARES will remain the same for everyone, and the policy will remain the same and won't increase with time. So our current campaign is focused on outreach and education. The reason why is this is we want to change the narrative, make sure people are informed, and there's more information out there for people to understand what the benefit is, why they're having these tax deducted from their paycheck, and how everyone can benefit from it, even if you are near retiree, if you are younger, if you are in your you will be really benefiting for this once you do have a need for long-term care. So this is why we would love to collaborate with organizations like yours in this coalition to ensure as many Washingtonians as possible have the information they need to understand this benefit and advocate for it. So I wanted to put some options on how we can collaborate together. So some of the things we do as a campaign is educational workshops for either your members or staff. So we can have kind of like a model of the trainers when we can train staff from different organizations that they can talk then directly to your members, have your organizers train and give these presentations to your members as well in their community. And we really have to get this message out to the people so that they're having these conversations with their family, friends, church congregations, neighborhood associations. So a workshop, I think, is great for some organizations, but then if a workshop is not something that would align with your organization, we will also love to be able to provide some content that can be added to your newsletter, or either like recurring emails that are sent to your organization, or common communications sent to your members and staff. As well as social media content, if you do have social media in your organization, that can be posted there to create awareness, and also to provide people with dates with some preset workshops that they can assist. So if you're interested, we really would love to have you drop your name, organization, and email in the chat. And I would love to come to your organizations as I did today. I give a presentation to your staff and members, or even send you some content for communications and messaging on what cares. And we will follow up with you with the presentation facilitator guys, so you can know what to expect and what material we are providing to your members and staff. And yeah, we would love to use you and whatever your own sphere of influence is, and continue sharing and spreading this awareness in what cares. And if you do have any questions, I think this is a good time. Thank you.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions.
And definitely drop in kind of like your email and name and the name of your organization in the chat if you'd be interested in having kind of like, we can have just a quick introduction meeting and discuss how we can possibly collaborate with your organization.
Thank you, Anna, for joining us this morning. And I'm sure hopefully folks will reach out to you in the chat. So thank you for dropping your contact information there. And I am seeing some lively conversation in the chat, so I appreciate that. Let's shift now to our next item on the agenda, and we have invited Elliot Barnett from the city of Tacoma to come talk with us this morning about the latest opportunity for folks to weigh in on the next phase of Home in Tacoma. So Elliot, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Rob. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. and it's good to be among you here on Zoom again today. And yes, Home in Tacoma is at an important point, and I'm here to just tell you about that and then ask for your collaboration on engagement. And I have a PowerPoint, but you know, I think most of you have seen my PowerPoint maybe more than once, and it hasn't changed all that much in the past couple months. So I have a couple of slides I've got a slide at the end which I'll put up there just to give you the project information. But now, if anybody wants if the group wants more presentation, I can spend 5 minutes and go through it. So maybe I'll just pause and ask, does anybody, or does the group wish to see?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear a couple of yes, please. So that's my cue. I'm always ready to share PowerPoint, because that is how we roll in planning.
Yes, and you have the ability now to share. So.
Okay. Well, I will give that intro presentation. I will sort of try to keep it short and get to the key ask here. How about that as a compromise?
Sounds great.
Okay. Did I manage to share my screen okay?
You did.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So Home in Tacoma is at an important starting point or reset point here. As of last year, the City Council took some really big steps. They adopted a package of policies that set the course for significant changes to zoning and housing choice and affordability actions. And so that work is now before us, and we're gearing up in the halls of the city. Well, actually in our home offices mostly, but we're gearing up to do this work. And this is a time for you all to get involved again. The point that we're at right now is still building our teams. We're hiring consultant support, and we're also reaching out to the community. And the question we have for the community is, what suggestions or wishes or ideas do you have about making Home in Tacoma Phase 2 a success? I'm gonna give that overview in just a second, but are there questions that you think we need to answer, especially if it's something you don't hear us talking about? And then almost or equally as important or even more important, how can we structure the engagement process? And since I'm speaking with you all and with your clients, people experiencing homelessness, how can we reach that group? I'd really like to ask for people to contact me during this meeting or after, if I can make arrangements with you to come and speak with some of your clients, because we need to hear people's voices in this. So what we're doing now is I'm doing presentations like this all around the city over the past few months, and the Planning Commission is holding a public hearing next Wednesday, April 20th, and then written comments through the end of April. And all this input is going to just go into our work plan. We're still sort of pre-launch right now, but we're using all this input to try and get it right, get our strategies together. And then also, this is a big invitation to everybody to come and participate in Home Tacoma Phase 2. So what is Home Tacoma Phase 2? It's one of the actions, or several actually, that are part of the city's affordable housing action strategy. And I'm sure you all are versed in that. 2018, very big strategy with 27 actions all across the board of really everything the city could think to do to try and connect people with housing. And that's all in response to a housing crisis that almost goes without saying with this group. But we know that people are struggling more than ever right now to get housing and find housing that meets their needs. So that's the reason for the project, one of the big reasons. Just this last Tuesday, if you haven't had a chance to tune in to the council study session on this last Tuesday, it was a great summary of all the work the city's doing around affordable housing. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund is now funded, going from 0 to I believe it's $5 million per year of funding towards housing. That's a big success. There are successes all across these 27 actions that the council adopted back in 2018. And it was an inspiring presentation that goes to show that the city can focus on an issue and try to make a difference, even though we know the need is huge, but there are things the city can do. So I encourage you to take a look at the city's webpage and tune in to that presentation. It was really good information. But Home in Tacoma is part of that, and it's about the housing growth strategy. Because here in Tacoma, like in most cities in the US, most of our land is single family, zone single family. And that means that one household per standard lot, that's the limit. And that worked for 50 years when we had vacant land, which we don't anymore. Now we have built out city, and if we're going to grow, it's going to need to be some amount of infill. And so the council has adopted that vision, and Home in Tacoma Phase 2 is going to develop the zoning that would allow infill or missing middle housing into city neighborhoods. There's also it's going to be about design standards, strengthening our regulatory tools around affordability. The city has a few tools on the books that gets affordable units built with larger projects as they come forward. Project developing anti-displacement strategies. I mean, much of the city is at high risk of displacement right now, and so it's a looming problem. There is for many people. So those are the aspects of Home in Tacoma, in with the city's larger affordable housing strategy in many ways. But coming to Home in Tacoma and the zoning exercise that we will be doing with the community, it's taking single family zoning, which says one house on one lot, and instead turning it to a form-based approach that says a structure about the size and layout of a house, but could have more than one dwelling unit inside of it. And these graphics, as you've probably seen many times, they show just some visuals of the idea of missing middle housing infill, more than one dwelling in a structure that's the size and shape of a house. So that's a lot of it. There's also some land set aside for medium scale buildings. It's mid-scale residential has been mapped for areas that are next to transit, next to shopping areas. And in those areas, the zoning is going to allow 3 to 4 story small scale multifamily, such as these images that you see on the bottom right here. It's a big zoning exercise and really a historic change to how the housing rules of the city work. Council worked a lot on this map over the course of the last year, and there's a tiny little version of the map which you can go and see online if you want to find out which blocks are in the yellow low scale area or in the pink or orange mid scale areas, and you can kind of see what that's going to look like. But we'll be working with this map, and making more maps all through this year about different zoning approaches. But we're also going to be implementing a bunch of policies. That housing is not only roofs, it's about building neighborhoods, building ownership opportunities, building in sustainability. All these different things need to inform our housing rules. That design is really important to the community, and so we need to spend some time on that. And that it's about scale and height of the buildings, not about the number of dwellings that are on each lot. That there are zoning tools and approaches to try and promote affordability, and we need to build those in, and also to work on anti-displacement. And finally, that we need to be real about growth, and that there are impacts when you build things and more people live in the community. There are infrastructure and services impacts. So we need to study all that stuff. And it's not one size fits all. These are both fourplexes, but they look completely different because they are from different eras and different types of neighborhoods. So the standards need to have based on the neighborhood and its current residential pattern. So that's Home in Tacoma. It will be about zoning, affordability and anti-displacement tools, especially as they plug into our zoning rules, and then actions to support housing growth. And there's a long list of goals there and tools that we need to try to integrate into our housing rules. And the schedule on the right here, we're almost at the end of what we've been calling a project initiation phase, which is really just trying to get organized and get our teams together and our tools together to do this, and also to invite you all to participate. But in the next couple of months, we'll be starting with the first round of public engagement, and that's going to be a really big effort. Between July and December is going to be when the bulk of the work is scheduled to be trained. And the goal is to have planning commission recommendations to the council in about March or April of next year, about a year from now. And council action is currently scheduled by June. Now, we will see, it's a big lift and there's a lot there. So, and it's ultimately the city council's schedule. And so we will see if this schedule sticks or gets pushed out, which could happen. So that's the invitation to you all to please follow and participate in this. There's this early comment opportunity, which I didn't put the date on here for some reason, but it's next Wednesday, April 20th. If any of you has the time and patience to come and testify to the planning commissions at their virtual public hearing, starts at 5:30 next Wednesday. That's important. You know, it's meaningful to staff and the planning commissioners to hear people's voices. And so I encourage that. And of course, you can also do written comments through the end of April. And once again, the comments are not, should we change the rules? Council has already answered that question. The rules will be changing. And the comments are not, we're not asking for comments about, well, what do you think the height should be or things like that. We're still trying to get the process in order. And for you all, once again, there's just not enough voice of people experiencing housing challenges and crises in these types of policy conversations. And I'd like your ideas about how to get those voices fully into the conversation. So that's the type of input that we're looking for at this stage in the process. And if anybody has events or other ideas about how city staff can come to where people are gathering that would have some input on these types of housing conversations, we're going to make those part of the effort this year. We had to be all online last time, and this time we're going to be able to actually go out and be in the same physical space as people. Thank goodness. So please let me know, maybe just send me your information by email or, by chat, or just shout it out right now if there's time. If I can get an event on my schedule, and we can go and talk with some of your clients. So that is my presentation. Does anybody have questions for me?
There's one in the chat for you now. The question is, as housing densities go up, what strategies are in place to mitigate parking density?
Great question. Well, the true and honest answer is, people do own cars, and there's just going to be more cars. Not to sugarcoat it, but there are the city has parking requirements and regulations And that is one of the topics that we will be working on as part of Home in Tacoma Phase 2. You know, should there be parking required? If you're trying to make space for more housing units, what's the right balance? And are there other tools to kind of manage parking at the neighborhood scale? So
thank you. And then Teresa has her hand up.
Hi, Teresa.
Yeah, we're ready for you, Teresa, if you want to ask your question.
I'm trying to. I just had a hard time getting my mute button to go away. Can you stop sharing the screen, or does that need to stay up?
No, I will stop right now.
So just a couple of things. You've heard from me before, of course, and you'll hear from me in the future. But your point about strengthening regulatory tools to promote affordable housing and prioritizing affordable housing, I'm hoping that you aren't going to rely on MFT because first of all, I would love to see the city and county and state, everyone who uses this at every level, put out the fact sheet about how many actual affordable housing units have been created using this, and how much we've lost in tax revenue in order to have a few people add a few very tiny apartments to their, anyway, it makes me angry. So even seeing those letters up just, so anyway, I would love to see some of the other tactics you have, because I think people who are, I live in a neighborhood where parking is, you know, it's nonsense. We are an anything goes sort of zoning area. And I know there need to be some of those, and I'm here and okay with that. But I think people who are used to having space and not having density, they're going to be a lot more open to this if you can show them how this density is going to actually impact homelessness. And I think you need to make a really direct line in that when you're promoting this to people, that you're not just going to create a whole bunch of little places where people who are working in the north can come and bedroom community us. You need to have some restriction on, if you're going to let people build these things, at least a 10-year thing where they're going to be 80% or less of AMI, and give them a real boost if they're willing to go 30% and lower for AMI. I mean, you know, build the suckers for them, whatever it takes. Make that housing actually address low-income housing in our community, because that's what we're missing. We're not missing a bunch of new rich people moving into our community.
Those are great comments, Teresa. And actually, I encourage you all to advocate for those, because I will share that there are a couple schools of thought about how to help create more housing choices at all price points. And, you know, there's this idea that just more housing is better, that the best thing a city can do is allow as much housing, you know, get out of the way and let people build a lot of housing. There's that view, and there's, you know, the Home in Tacoma policies we're not there. The City Council has said, no, we also need some affordability tools that do target the lower income levels more specifically, from moderate on down to low to very low. But what's that balance? You know, you're going to have those conversations in the course of this next year. And so voices in favor of dedicated affordability are going to be important.
Jeffrey, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I am very supportive of the government pushing for low-income housing. But we also need affordable and more public transportation. And we could do something that might be a little novel here, but actually build bike lanes that are safe, on streets that are safe. I'm a bike rider and I ride in town. And I've had to duck a mirror or two on trucks. But these are the things that make affordable housing reasonable in a city. without them, you're pushing people out.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And Sally.
Thank you. Elliot, I put a comment in the chat about something that the city's Department of Environmental Services is doing to work with communities whose experiences are really different from policymakers' experiences. It's called transcreation. And while they did it with people who speak world languages, it turns out a lot of our communities that are marginalized and on the edge speak and understand the world in ways that are not recognizable to policymakers lots of times. So when you talk about engaging with unhoused people, I'm going to urge you to look at that to be a process and not just an event, not just a focus group, not just a meeting, not just to come down and chat for an hour, check the box and call it good, but to create a process where the city actually engages deeply with unhoused people. And the environmental services people did a fabulous job. It's on the city council video from Tuesday night, the 12th. And I would urge you to watch it because I was really, really encouraged by what has been done. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. And Jay, you can wrap up our questions.
Really quickly, can you remind us all when that committee is open for public comment so that we can get down there and actually make these comments to the appropriate group that will hear us?
Yes, thank you. So it's next Wednesday, 5:30. The meeting starts, the Planning Commission meeting starts at 5 p.m. and the public hearing will start about 5:30. Usually, getting there at 5 is not unreasonable because then you get to put your name on the list, and I expect there will be lots of people who want to say something about the project. So the information about that, if you go to the city's homepage, cityoftacoma.org /home in Tacoma, you can find the link to the Planning Commission and the Zoom link and all of that info about how to participate.
Could you also add that link possibly to the chat?
Oh, good idea. For sure. Yeah, I'll put that in next.
Perfect. And we have a couple more hands up if you got a moment, Elliot. Jan first.
I love it.
Hi there. My name is Jan. I'm with LASA. And we're looking to develop some affordable housing about, and we need government. And it costs us quite a bit more than a private developer. So I've never heard anyone talk about that. And so I don't know if it's the right time to bring it, that we have to jump through hoops that a private developer doesn't have to jump through. I'm not saying those hoops are bad or good. I'm just saying that it increases the cost per unit considered. And so if we're really interested in more, then maybe we need to be looking at that also.
Thank you, Janet. The city is aware of those challenges and those extra costs, and the Affordable Housing Action Strategy includes actions to address them. I have a colleague whose name is Charlotte Kinlow, whose job is to shepherd affordable housing permits through the process. And if you reach out to me, I can make an introduction if you don't know her. And there are multiple other actions, such as making surplus city land available to affordable housing projects, and other things that the city's trying to do to try and bring those costs down for affordable housing. So please let me know if I can connect you with anybody.
Thank you. And then Clinton, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you very much. You all may remember me from giving that short presentation regarding the Master Builders Association. I just wanted to sort of, tie in and remind everybody that this is the policy that I was hoping, we could get behind. Again, it's been several months, but just to remind everyone, the substance of my presentation was that according to the Pierce County Buildable Lands Report, we're around, as I recall, 30,000 units behind our growth targets right now. And I believe City of Tacoma has said that we need around 40 or 50,000, around 50,000 units in the next less than 20 years. And the reason that the biggest reason those units haven't been built is because like 70 or 80% of the city is locked up in single family zoning. And so this effort would sort of unlock the development potential of that 70 or 80%. And it's not going to solve all the problems, you know, no matter how this gets passed. But I think the critical thing is that this is the first step. And so anyway, I would encourage you all. I mean, there are concerns about traffic concurrency, public transport. I appreciate everyone's pessimism or trepidation regarding MFTEs, and those are all legitimate issues to discuss. But I think it's important for us to get behind this policy broadly, or else we're never going to have enough houses for everybody who needs one. So anyway, that's my piece.
Thank you, Clinton. And I see Lavada, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to make a comment. I wrote my comments in the chat section, and I hope people read it. And I've lived in many other cities. Don't make the same mistakes. Just don't make the same mistakes.
Lavada, I didn't see the comments, but I'll look. But what mistakes are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of the sick buildings that were built in the 60s, and the people had to abandon the buildings in several states that I was living part of. And when they abandoned the buildings, it got dumped into the city's coffer as responsibility, and then they had to deal with it. And still they had thousands of people homeless because the people couldn't live in the buildings. Just don't make the same mistakes. Don't clutter and build up. Don't keep cluttering and building up in the community. And when one house catches fire, you displace 200 families. Just don't make the same mistake. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lavada.
Keep making views.
Yeah, there's that's a sobering to me to think about. You know, there've been good and bad. There've been decisions that planners helped to make that were looked back on as positive, and there's been those that have been looked back on as negative too. And I think you're bringing the right attitude to this.
Yeah, and the developers take the money and run. I mean, they go to another state, they go to another region with their money, and it's not pumped back into our community.
Yeah, well said. Thank you.
So don't shoot the messenger.
No, I appreciate it. I think we need people, we need input. This is really important.
David, I also see you have your hand up.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Rob. I just, I wanted to take, since we're on the topic, I want to take a moment to invite everybody out to April 23rd at 1 o'clock at Tacoma, to the Evergreen Tacoma, to attend the Home in Tacoma for All Community Forum. The Lived Experience Coalition, Tacoma Tenants Union, Tacoma DSA, and Serve the People Tacoma are hosting an event where we'll hear presentations from union leaders and from people who have experience of being unhoused and who are recovering from that experience. We're going to hear from an expert on social housing, the idea of social housing. I saw that mentioned in the chat earlier. Zachary Wood who's Dr. Zachary Wood from Seattle University is going to be talking to us about social housing, and there'll also be Yasmin Trudeau, Senator Yasmin Trudeau will be joining us to speak as well in support of the Home in Tacoma for All platform, which is basically it's three prongs. Is we'd like to see the Home in Tacoma process be used as a vehicle for transformation for how we think about housing and how we develop housing in the city. We'd like to have affordable housing for all and use some developer profits to fund affordable housing development model and a new model for social housing. We want to pass a renter's bill of rights to prevent displacement and to prevent people from being facing economic displacement and eviction for unjust causes. And we want to ban and replace natural gas in Tacoma's home. The city's been calling for real action on climate change for years and years and years now. And this is an opportunity while we reconsider our zoning process and what is acceptable to build in the city. So come on out and join us. I can put a link to the information here in the chat for everybody to get a look at here in a second. But there's going to be an opportunity for the community to give input too. We're going to be asking people about their stories about the housing crisis and elevating their voices in front of before our elected officials and between the commissions that are faced with these tough decisions about how we can transform, housing from this, the speculative commodity that binds our intimate relationships to the market forces that are beyond our control, and how do we transform that into a restorative public good, where we vision, housing as the basis for health and justice and prosperity in our city. So yeah, I'll drop those links in, and then I've got to go because I've got another meeting to attend. But thank you everybody for your time. Thank you.
And Kathy, if you could be real quick, we're way behind in our agenda.
Oh, yes. The only reason I raised my hand is because I have an unanswered question in the chat, being that we are helping to co-host the event that David was just talking about. And I already have 2 other events on my calendar for next Wednesday. Is there a way for us to be able to add our input if our time is already spoken for on that day? Please, dear God in heaven. I'm only one person.
I know Elliot put the link to the webpage in the chat. They are, and correct me if I'm wrong, Elliot, but you're accepting written comment on this portion of Home in Tacoma until the end of the month.
That's right. Yeah, wonderful if those of you have the time to be in person. Always love to hear your voices, but no, written comments are accepted anytime until the end of April. And this is still early. There'll be lots more times to provide comment.
Awesome.
I was trying to take a screenshot of that schedule that was on your slide. Is there any way that I could get that information? That would be outstanding and very helpful.
Yeah, I'll do that myself here. Good idea. Well, perfect. Group, thank you all for letting me talk all this much time. I think I took way more than I was supposed to. Sorry, Rob.
You blew up my agenda, Elliot. Jeez. Okay, thank you. And let's shift over. You actually took time away from your government colleagues and made them wait longer. So you can work that out with them later. So let's shift to government updates. And I see Caleb on the screen. Caleb, do you have any updates from the city of Tacoma?
Yeah, I'll emphasize one in terms of expediency. The 23 and 24 competitive funding process our department anticipates releasing that application for funding during that biannual budget. Those contracts are going to be on June 1st, 2022. I know Jay was able to reach out to me and said she was interested, especially as I mentioned last week, diversifying our outreach services as well and putting a highlight in there too as well. So if you are interested, please reach out to me. We will have staff that will be able to help with training and the process, and they will be able to help with that. So that will be part of the process as well. So if you're kind of like, I don't really know how to ask, it is in our best interest for equity and access that we give you an opportunity, even if you don't feel that comfortable asking for money from the city. So please reach out to me. I will put you on the list and I will keep you updated on all the process from now until then. The competitive process will fund programs that are aligned with council priorities and support efforts to improve livability, education, civil engagement, and equity and accessibility indicators in the Tacoma 2025 strategic plan, as well as NCS programs or areas. The Human Service Commission will rate these applicants and prepare funding recommendations for consideration for the council, and funding recommendations will be presented at council in November in alignment with the city's budgeting process. That's the big one I want to highlight. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will make sure I continue to drop my info in the chat.
Great. Thank you, Caleb. And I know you're feeling rushed, but I also want to mention that the NCS will be doing a homelessness update to the City Council at study session on Tuesday, April 19th at noon. So sorry to have you in such a rush.
That's all right. It's a very important one. That's one I should definitely remember. So thank you, Rob, for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Jeff, any updates from Pierce County Human Services?
Yeah, I'll be brief too. Our coordinated entry system enhancement funding opportunity is still open. If you're considering applying, applications are due next Thursday, April 21st by 4:30 p.m.
Perfect. And let's see, I haven't even had a chance to see if Valerie's in the meeting, but she is not. Lori, anything that you're aware of that we would want to share regarding rental assistance?
I know that the portal is open. They're taking applications. We all really want everyone to know that rental assistance continues to be available, and people need to apply for it if they haven't. There was also, I can find it and put it in the chat, a great article by King 5 News talking about how rental assistance combined with right to counsel and what the Housing Justice Project is doing have really limited the tsunami effect of, although we're really busy, but it's a great article. It's really interesting to read. I will find it and put it in the chat. And we are continuing to do outreach events to Pierce County libraries, and we've just added a bunch of dates for Tacoma libraries. So, and they're all on our website right now, tacomaprobono.org under HJP. So take a look. We got a lot of dates coming up, and that's in person. Most of the times that we're going to be out, we'll be out with rental assistance. So a lot of opportunities to come in and apply in person or check on your application or whatever. That's what I know.
Perfect. Perfect. Jenny, any updates from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department? That's assuming Jenny's on the call because I haven't double checked.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just struggling with my video. It's crazy how after 2 years, we still have these struggles. Hi, everyone. Good to be here as always. I know we're behind. I will try to keep it short, but I think I say that every time. So you've probably heard, but case rates for COVID are up slightly with the last round of data that we've looked at. Probably not surprising with things opening up a bit more, but just want to make sure folks are we're still way down from our peak in January, but it's very important to stay on top of this. I will, of course, drop links in the chat too after I report out. If you are over 50, you are eligible for a second booster. And please remind anyone that you know who is in that group to get a second booster. We fortunately have not seen outbreaks at our shelters in the last several weeks, which is amazing and really great news. I've mentioned on this call before that we have been seeing a significant uptick in congenital syphilis cases in Pierce County, which is really concerning. And our STD HIV group is working hard on that. I'm going to drop a fact sheet and the information for the STD clinic if you happen to work with people who are pregnant. Again, I did a longer report out on this a couple weeks ago, I think, but syphilis is really, really easily treatable, but can also have really disastrous effects if it's left untreated and passes on to babies. So we want to try and raise awareness around that. And the last thing I want to say is, and of course, folks can ask questions, but last thing I want to say is I am working with Adam Reichenberger, who many of you know, and other colleagues here to improve our internal communications and coordination among those of us who work with people experiencing homelessness or homeless service providers in some way. So I've been working hard in my own role to just meet with folks in my own division, communicable disease, as well as environmental health and strengthening families, 2 other divisions here at the department, to make connections, build my knowledge around all the department's work that touches this community, and have the goal of providing you a wider range of information and resources and making connections in my liaison role. So any feedback you have about what you'd like to hear from me as the department representative in these meetings, it's been all COVID all the time for a couple of years, and I'd like to share other information with you that's important from a health department perspective. So love to hear your input. Any questions?
All right, not seeing any at the moment. Thank you for the update, Jenny. All right, so we do not, I know that Ivan was here earlier and let me know he didn't have any updates this week from Pierce County Emergency Management. So let's shift along in our agenda. We are a bit behind, and I really want to devote some time to this conversation that we've queued up regarding homelessness in smaller jurisdictions and rural areas of Pierce County. So Teresa, I know you helped set this up. Do you want to frame the conversation?
Well, I wasn't expecting to, but I'm happy to say that these folks are dealing with a bit of a different situation than most of the people who are working in Tacoma, and we're excited to hear from them about what that situation is, how it's different, and how can we as a coalition actually be more of a thorough Pierce County coalition. So take it away. I don't know which of you is speaking first.
I'm going to call dibs just because my camera's on. Sorry, Bob. So my name is Gina Capidu. I know a lot of people on this call, both as a co-chair with Bob in our Gig Harbor Key Peninsula Housing and Homeless Coalition, but I also direct the Key Peninsula branch of Children's Home Society of Washington. When Bob and I were kind of doing our powwow, we thought we'd kind of do like introductions of like who we are, talk about some of the kind of unique issues that we have on our part of Pierce County on the other side of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, and then kind of talk about the initiatives and ways people can get involved. So Bob, you want to introduce yourself and then we can kind of launch right into it?
Yeah, thank you, Gina. First of all, I apologize for my very poor quality of video camera. It fades in and out constantly. So we pretty excited to be part of this. And to start it off, Gina, I think we're about 1.5 years old in sort of its second reincantation. And I want to make sure that everybody recognizes the role that Maureen and Garrett played in helping us get organized, sort of focus and learn more about the larger coalition to begin with. And Kevin was there at that time, I think, and then Rob's, you've certainly been very supportive. That's been critically important to us, and we keep coming back to you for guidance, and Teresa's now stepped in to provide some support. So Gina, why don't you go ahead and I'll fill in as we go.
That sounds good. Yeah, so I just want to talk about a couple of things, like I said. So what's always surprising to me is how many people don't realize that Key Peninsula and Gig Harbor is part of Pierce County. It's like there's this barrier that as soon as you hit the Narrows Bridge, that's all Kitsap County. No, I assure you, we're constituents too. And so that's in itself a unique piece, is educating our county that we are our county is always a big piece. I do want to give a shout out to our county officials that are on this call because they do reach out. So we get to work with Valerie, we get to work with Garrett. So like there are county staff that are giving us a nod, but the general public is always surprised by that. And so I know that, you know, Pierce County is a big spot. We've got lots of different areas with lots of unique needs. And I think one of the biggest ones that we really struggle with when it comes to housing and homelessness is the first part is that we don't have any public transportation. It is very difficult to talk about how to get to food, how to get to jobs, how to get to vehicles, how to get to better education, domestic violence resources, mental health, substance abuse. I'm preaching to the choir, I know that, but we do not have public transportation. And that's a result of years and years and years ago of a decision that was made at the county level to remove that when we had a budget dip. And this is a trend that we see in rural areas, again, preaching to the choir, that it takes longer to recover from economic recessions. So policy is a really big piece of that. And the lack of transportation is a pretty obvious thing. I think a second thing that I always go back to is that we don't have a lot of providers in Key Peninsula and Gig Harbor, and it's very expensive to have partners operate out here that are on the other side of the Narrows Bridge. I spend a lot of time in my car traveling up and down the Key to see clients, meet with providers. So compared to the, the robust number of providers and the heart that exists in Tacoma, we don't have that kind of capacity in our community. So something that I'm so fortunate to work with Bob on and work with all of you is bringing partners to our community. So I think that's a big one. And then I think really a third piece that I always just want to highlight is just that we have a really transient population, is what I think we're learning in our coalition, is we do not have shelters. We don't have a lot of overnight capacity or freezing shelters, or freezing night shelters, I should say. So trying to connect with people who want services or need services, they're so transient, either because, like we heard about today, they don't feel safe and they feel like they have to stay on the move rather than settle where providers can come out. Or the second piece is that they're deep in the woods and it's hard to get observation to connect people with those kind of things. And then I think the last one I'll speak to, that's a really big issue for us, is point blank, the county had said at one point that there will not be housing that is built in Key Peninsula or Gig Harbor because we don't have transportation. So the county has told us in the past, we're not going to help fund housing because the county took away transportation. So it's really been a process for us to look at how multifaceted that is and the role that policy has. I think we're also looking heavily, like I said, at getting providers out into the community that exists in other parts of Pierce County. And then what's been just amazing to see is saying that the community is trusting to make referrals to our coalition because we've got success that happens. Our work is hard, it's complicated. I know you all know that. So I'll kind of give a success story and then I'll absolutely turn it over to Bob. But just within the last couple of weeks, there was a family that was on the brink of experiencing homelessness. And we really want to emphasize prevention because we all know it's much more cost effective and less trauma if we can prevent that. And so they were at a point where they just needed just a little bit of support to get into an apartment. And so through the generosity of some of the food banks and other partners, there was funding provided to help them get the first, last, and deposit so that they would not become homeless. There's been food coordinated, furniture coordinated, and this is a family that's really wanting to learn how to get better education, get a better job, and just work towards self-sufficiency. And those things happen because somebody said, hey, there's a coalition, there's a group of people that care, have access to resources, and want to coordinate. So it was just beautiful to see that family is situated. They are stable. The family of 7, including I think 5 of them are kids, and saying that not only is crisis stabilized, but they want to move further along in their self-sufficiency so that this isn't something constantly hanging over them and they're able to heal. So that's what gets me excited every single day. Bob, I'll get off my soapbox. What else can we talk about?
Well, thank you, Gina. I think it's really important. Well, first of all, a little clarity. We do have public bus transportation in Gig Harbor. We have one route number 100. But as Gina pointed out, there is no public transportation on all of the Key Peninsula where 21,000 people reside. The Key Peninsula is a special area. It is generational in that there are 5 or 6 generations old families living there who started out as pioneers and farmers, have never seen services, have really never experienced much of a handout to help. So the challenges of transportation, education, finding jobs, it's very, very difficult and much more remote an area than certainly Gig Harbor is, and all the challenges that come with that. I think One other thing that's, I think, important to note is much like Adam's organization, we are volunteer. When we sat down and talked about jumpstarting this after COVID had hit, was about 1.5 years ago, I guess. We talked about not wanting to form another nonprofit in our community that would be competing with some very, very good nonprofits, faith-based organizations, service groups, and just felt we had a lot of talent and a lot of heart here that if we could collaborate and encourage people to share a little bit more, we could do it without needing to drain any funds out of it. And I think that was a good decision. So moving forward, as Gina said, we have no shelters. We have no transitional housing. We have, in Gig Harbor only, we have 2, I'll call them affordable housing options. They were originally meant to be low income, but those rents have gone up. They are full. There are waiting lists. And as someone pointed out earlier, there are no motivations or few motivations for any developers and or builders to create new ones. So there just aren't a lot of options here. And therefore we are reaching across the bridge and have been very fortunate in that many of you on the call today, and I will certainly want to mention Tacoma Rescue Mission, has now finished their 2nd week in coming out to Gig Harbor and the KP with their outreach team. They're meeting with the food banks where a lot of our homeless residents come in to pick up food and just to talk. And this is wonderful. We're going to get the May schedule from Davina, I think Monday or Tuesday, and we're going to get that out so that people can tell other people where they will be and how to access them. So the only way we could see to make this happen is to engage the food banks, our faith-based churches and groups, medical clinics, Pierce County contractors. We talk even with our fire and police departments. They're particularly the fire departments, a key in helping us understand where some of the homeless are in the more remote areas. We have a new mayor in Gig Harbor, and along with that, a city council sort of change in interest, and it's very positive. There's open communication. There is going to be progress made soon. Gina works with the Key Peninsula Council, and she's on the board of several groups down there, and I think you still run or president of the Business Association? Okay. The other thing that's important to understand about our geographic location is that we are much more connected in ways to Port Orchard and the southern part of Kitsap County. The family that Gina was talking about, seven members in the family, were going to be homeless in 8 days when we got the call. Within 5 days, they had first and last in security. They had a guaranteed apartment. They are self-sufficient. The husband had a good job. They just went through 2 or 3 life circumstances that none of us would probably recover from. And yet they're well on their way forward. But to make that happen, Anton Pressinger, who is the executive director of Northwest Hospitality in Port Orchard, stepped up and contributed funds out of his nonprofit toward that first and last month's rent. We have never asked the Tacoma side of the bridge for money. we're not sure if you have any anyway, but I guess my point is we have found a way to develop a community support group that is providing short-term and in some cases longer-term financial aid, food, clothing, coordinated entry, family case management, and mentoring past that. So it's been a good thing. I think that the coalition is just sort of, we haven't done it. We've just kind of stood here and thrown a few ideas out and watched people kind of reach up and say, yeah, I can do that. No, I'll take that one. And it's been very rewarding. I think the prevention side is key. So we are working very closely with everybody in the community to identify families that are at risk. And the moment that we are aware they're at risk and they're willing to talk about getting help, we can help keep them out of that downward spiral. We've had a lot of families that have had to leave our area due to high rents, really low inventory of housing, and let alone affordable housing. There's not much here you can find to move into, even if you want to. And we just hate losing really good people who have contributed in the community for so long that finally say, we give up. We're going to go to Thurston, or we're going to go to Mason County. One other key, we've got several initiatives going on, but I think for the sake of time, one that certainly bears some discussion, and thank you, Paula. She was out last Friday talking to a church who is now very interested in taking the next step towards developing a formal safe parking program. I got to attend that meeting with Paula. I was blown away by her presentation, and of course, not only obvious sincerity, but the detail and the ability to convince them and tell them and show them why it's a good thing and how it will work, that there won't be negatives to it. I think we can duplicate that with another church or two. We hope to at least have one more available on the Key Peninsula. But I guess the other thing is we've learned not to be bashful. So we have a lot of people in need. We get a lot of good attention and response from all of you on the other side. Certainly besides the coalition, Greater Lakes Mental Health, CLR, have been responsive. Teresa just helped us kick off a new initiative to address and talk about what we can do as a community to better support the WCCW incarcerated women who are going through the reentry program to move back into society. And so persons with convictions have very similar parallels, we have found, to the homeless population that we've encountered. So a lot of the programs we have in place can relate and help them. And some of the things we can't do, we will try to do. But I think that gives you more of an overview. We reach out to our homeless, we distribute clothing, food, water, blankets if we have them when there's inclement weather. We're waiting for the county DEM to formalize the next steps in either creating smaller emergency shelters and or kind of formalizing the one large one we have. I mean, two large ones, one in Gig Harbor at Chapel Hill Presbyterian Church, and the other one at the Key Peninsula Civic Center. Jana, you're supposed to slow me down when I do this. So that's the quick overview. We're busy. I wanted also to recognize Chandra Hallam, who is part of our coalition and is the outreach coordinator for Chapel Hill Presbyterian, and Jay Worley, who knocked on our door about 3 months ago. Jay, I'm not sure, just kind of overwhelmed us and said, hey, I want to do this. And Jay has recently become, in addition to her Seated Hopes program, has become part of LEC. And we're very thrilled to have that resource and point of view for us. So Gina, anything to wrap up?
No, I think I dropped my contact info and Bob's contact info in the chat box. So if you guys have more information, please do reach out to us. I think for me, just in closing, you know, in the spirit of not being bashful, as Bob said, is what I'd love to ask for is just for your organizations, if you can offer resources on our side of the bridge or serve people on our side of the bridge, please reach out so that we can feature you as a speaker. We meet every other week from 10 to 11, and we want to highlight the great work you do to give people services. Keep advocating. I want to give a big shout out to our county partners like Valerie and John and Heather and all those. And then I just want to say thank you. Keep showing up for the work you're doing every day. And thanks for actually answering my calls when I keep ringing you. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you for the overview. I think that's really helpful. I know I mentioned in chat that we really would like to get Paula's perspective from the east side of Pierce County as well. I'm not sure. I'm almost wondering if we should continue this conversation next week. If you could be here, Paula, to kind of add on your perspective of what you're seeing in Puyallup, Bonnie Lake, those areas. Would that work for you, Paula?
Yes, it will. Thanks, Rob. Yeah.
I think that would be a great addition to carry this on. And I would do it now, except we're running really tight on time. So appreciate that. And please do let us know if there's ways that the coalition, countywide coalition, can help on the Gig Harbor and key peninsulas as well.
And then Rob, we've got an initiatives list that are different things we're working on behind the scenes. If I share it to you, could you send it out?
Yeah, or you might also be able to drop it in the chat. But either way.
Thank you.
All right. So let me see what I can salvage from the rest of our agenda. I do think we want to go and take a look at the breakout discussion review from last week. Timothy, are you ready to do that? I can share it on my screen if that would work for you.
Yeah, I'm ready to do that. So yeah, I'll try to be the essence of pith here. It was interesting because the results were really pretty clear. The upshot is that people really like the Zoom meetings and the format that we've been doing. They really like Rob's facilitation. They like the information sharing. They like how it's increased participation in coalition meetings, etc. People just really like the Zoom format. And whatever enthusiasm there is for returning to in-person meetings, and there is some enthusiasm, not a lot of urgency, but some enthusiasm, is tempered with concern for losing what we have and what's been working so well in the Zoom meetings. So that said, opinion really divided among 4 options. And at some point we might want to do another poll that reflects these. Continuing the weekly meetings over Zoom with just basically keep doing what we're doing and don't change anything. The next idea was continue with Zoom with 1 meeting monthly, replaced by an in-person meeting. And then there was continue meeting over Zoom with an additional meeting that would be in person, and continue meeting over Zoom with like quarterly or semi-annual in-person meetings or something like that. So again, continuing meeting over Zoom was the overwhelming preference, with various not particularly urgent ideas for how to get back to in-person meetings in some way or another. In terms of the comments further down, I won't go over them in the interest of time, but I will say that they just broke out into kind of two main categories. One is thoughts on how to keep the meetings as accessible as they've been over Zoom, and also thoughts about how, if and when we do return to in-person meetings, how to enhance those or add value to what we're already doing over Zoom. So that's the upshot.
Thank you, Timothy, and that's really concise. And in relation to this, Rosemary at the steering committee meeting on Wednesday made a suggestion. Would you like to share that with the group, Rosemary, in terms of what we think we heard and what we want to do going forward?
Rob, you're going to laugh at this, but I don't remember what I shared. So if you do, go ahead.
All right. So what we talked about was that because overwhelmingly we heard from folks that they wanted to continue the virtual meetings for the time being, that we're going to honor that. We suggest that we honor that request from the majority of those who attend this meeting, and that we look to create some sort of monthly social opportunity that is accessible for people at some point in the future. We didn't define when, but we recognize there was quite a bit of interest in having the opportunity for some in-person networking and social contact. And so we will keep that in mind and be thinking about it, and would love people's input if they have ideas for what that should look like and when that should happen. That would be great. I'm always mindful of what Jenny told us in the update from the health department, that we are seeing an uptick in cases in the community. So there's definitely not a rush to get back into to add a in-person social element, but we recognize that it's something that people definitely would like. So that is a good summary. Thank you, Timothy. The bad news this week, is that we don't have time to do a breakout conversation this week. So hopefully everybody is okay with that. That means Timothy doesn't have to create a summary document, and we'll have to come up with another reason for you to talk next week, Timothy. Real quick, I did want to make sure I shared a little bit about advocacy earlier, the opportunity to listen to the homelessness update from the city of Tacoma on April 19th. I also wanted to mention that during the Tacoma City Council meeting on Tuesday evening, there's of course always the opportunity to make public comment. And on that agenda, there are 2 large property tax exemption developments on the agenda that are slipping in kind of under the wire to use the 8-year multifamily property tax exemption that does not require any of the units to be affordable housing. There are 2 significantly large developments. One's 300 apartment units, the other's 160 or something. So you may want to take a look at the city council agenda if you want to make comments on that. I also wanted to share an update from Maureen Howard. She emailed Garrett and Rosemary and I asking that we share this update during today's meeting. So I'm just going to read from her email. Maureen Howard sent the following. She's on medical leave fighting advanced ovarian cancer. Your continued healing thoughts and prayers have helped bring me through my 3rd chemo treatment and innumerable tests and appointments. Surgery should come next, but we aren't sure when. Then more chemo. I miss you all and I miss the work, and I'm grateful to all of you who have picked up my part and more. This is a new and hard journey, and having your caring support makes all the difference. So We are in Maureen's thoughts, and I'm sure she's in many of our thoughts as well. And she appreciates the support. So let's see what else we have on our agenda that we could actually deal with here. I don't think we have any critical safe sites updates at this time. Seeing if Ed, did you have anything that you thought needed to be shared today?
I don't think there's anything that's critical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And any other coalition committee updates that we wanted to share quickly? Yeah, Rosemary.
Just to announce, the governance work group is meeting Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. to continue work on our vision and values, mission, and value statements. So if that's the kind of thing you like to do, the Zoom link will be on the webpage, and look forward to having anyone come who's interested.
Thank you, Rosemary. And I always want to carve out time for any announcements that would be good for the larger group. Carolyn, I see you have your hand up. You're muted at the moment.
Sorry. Hi, everyone.
No problem.
I just wanted to let you know that a group of us is working with Associated Ministries to try to better network faith communities of all faiths on this very topic. Not that we're not networked already through the coalition, but this would be a little more focused on what we want to advocate for and what activities we can support as a group or whoever is interested. So I'd love to hear from you if you're in a faith community that is trying to find a space for combining forces, also with the support of the coalition. And this is something, it's not just that you have to be in a formal church, you know, just be someone that has that has faith that, you know, or doesn't mind someone expressing their faith. So anyway, I know I'm not doing a great job here, but I'll drop my email in, and we're just in the storming Norman stages, or whatever that term is. And if you want to join us, please contact me, and we'll get you looped in.
Thank you, Carolyn. And Clinton, your hand's up as well.
Thank you. I may be imagining things, but I thought I remembered somebody mentioning an opportunity to help build handicap ramps, or I don't know what they're supposed to be called these days, differently abled ramps, and other infrastructure to help folks. Is there anyone on this call that is involved in that kind of thing? All right, well, anyway, I'll leave my contact information in the chat, but we're looking to, at the Master Builders Association, we're looking to hopefully get involved in that.
Oh, okay. Just so you know, there are at least a couple of nonprofits in the community that are doing some of that work as well for aging in place, including Rebuilding Together South Sound and Tacoma Pierce County Habitat for Humanity. I'm unsure how much they're using volunteers to do that work, but those are a couple of resources.
All right, yeah, we're just wrapping up our habitat build. I knew that they had a program for it, but we were looking to see if there are any others we could work with.
Got it. Perfect.
So Rebuilding Together, is that?
Yeah, Rebuilding Together South Sound. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Sorry for the interruption.
Yep. No problem at all.
Oops.
So anyone else who has something that they would like to talk with in front of the group? All right, I've seen a few people have dropped off. I know this has been an information-packed meeting today, and I appreciate everybody's grace in the agenda blowing up, but I think it was still some great content. So as we wrap up, have a great weekend. I hope everybody has a great Easter, and we will see everybody next Friday. If you have the time and ability and interest, we will have a group of us hanging out here for the planning for next couple of weeks meetings. So we will resume that meeting here in about 5 minutes. Otherwise, have a good Friday.